Good morning, everyone. We're going to change gears somewhat and talk about cyber attacks and Canada's new cybersecurity standard. Basically, this is a value-added webinar. The OGCA is always looking to advance the cause. We've done a number of webinars in our series, and this is just another feather in our cap, you could say. In essence, what we're looking at is what you must know and should do when it comes down to cybersecurity. We are incredibly honored and very privileged to have Sai Huda, the founder and chairman and CEO of CyberCatch. Sai is a globally recognized cybersecurity expert and author of the best-selling book, Next Level Cybersecurity. He's also the co-author of Canada's National Cybersecurity Standard. I want to repeat that, Canada's National Cybersecurity Standard, and it's done in conjunction with the Government of Canada. Sai will get into all the idiosyncrasies of that publication and whatnot, but just so everyone knows, he's a frequent keynote speaker at industry conferences, and that's kind of how he came onto our radar. Most recently, he was a keynote at the Canadian Small Business Summit on cybersecurity. And so predominantly, CyberCatch serves small and medium-sized organizations in Canada, and has a very patented and innovative, I guess, cyber risk mitigation solution. So we're going to go through that today. I'd like to first start off by welcoming Sai.
Giovanni, thank you so much. Honored to be with you and honored to partner with OGCA. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. We're just happy that I don't have to speak for an hour on cybersecurity, because I would just turn off the computer and turn it on. I'm really not that bright. So I'm hoping for some epiphanies during the course of this conversation with you. And I know for sure you'll be able to put it in layman's terms, because a lot of the stuff, I hand off to somebody and say, can you fix it? Yeah. So let's start off with the first question, Sai. So the prevalence of cybersecurity is like cyber attacks. We keep hearing about them more and more in the news. It's one of these things where it's beyond now the pale. It's become very concerning. Question for you is, why do they keep happening?
No, thank you. And again, special thanks to the audience for joining us today. This is a very timely topic. The root cause of why these attacks happen is that the attackers are very motivated and excited because they can see that they can make either a lot of money from these attacks, or that they can be of value to their special interests. So some of these gangs are actually sponsored by foreign governments that are hostile to Canada and the rest of the Western nations. So they have a national interest to get data, to cause harm, and help their nations get a competitive advantage or other benefits. But the other are about money. That just simply, they can steal data, sell it in the dark web, make money. They can install ransomware and demand a ransom payment and make money. So they're excited, they're motivated, and they're being successful. Now, they're being successful because these organizations, like attending today, do not have a proper defense in place. So these attackers are finding missing or ineffective controls that are not able to block them, or they're unable to detect them in a timely manner. And so they're easily able to break into the network and be successful.
So walk me through that, because again, I understand that most of the people on the call over here on the webinar are contractors, and we deal in the physical and the tangible, right? Bricks, block, motor, that kind of stuff. We erect constructs. So a lot of the times when you're talking about, they get into the system, is it like is it as easy as a leak? Is it a pinhole? I'm not really understanding. So walk me through that. Okay. Talk to me as if I'm a child, please, because a lot of this stuff is rather difficult and I just want to understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone in the audience, is part of an organization that is digital, and everyone in the audience personally are digital. What I mean by that is we all use email. Like, who doesn't use email? Every one of us. Who doesn't use some application on our mobile phone for different things? Shopping, looking up stories, looking up investment, whatever, to make my life richer, to communicate. And every organization has a website. Who doesn't have a website? And who doesn't use email? So because these organizations are on the internet, they are digital, they are subject to attack, because now attackers don't have to come physically to the organizations, to the sites. They can just attack from the web. In fact, there are two ways that attackers get in, primarily. One is through spear phishing emails. And these are essentially fake emails to targeted individuals at an organization, the target organization. And it's to lure them through this messaging that is so well crafted that the person gets fooled. And they're incented to, motivated to, driven to, compelled to click on a link or download something. And that link or that download will have the malware. That's the bad code, the nasty code. And so that'll get in to that person's computer, and then it'll start to spread throughout the organization. So that's one of the primary ways they get in, is from these social engineered, spear phishing targeted emails. The other one is from the internet, from the website. So organizations like our members here today have websites. They have some web applications that they're using. They have probably some servers that are called web servers that provide information to prospective customers, that provide services to customers, to their vendors. A whole host of integration has happened to make everybody's process efficient. Well, because it's exposed to the internet, the attackers can scan and they can find bad code or misconfigurations, and they can exploit them to get in. In fact, CyberCatch scanned almost 20,000 websites of organizations, including contractors in US and Canada. And what we discovered was very alarming. And that's unfortunate reality, which is that essentially 8 out of 10, like in this case, 82%, had vulnerabilities in the websites or misconfigurations they weren't even aware of, that an attacker can exploit in minutes and get into the network. So there are 3 kinds that we discovered: spoofing, clickjacking, session writing. These are essentially bad code that enable the attacker to fool the web server with some injected code, and the web server responds thinking that it's legitimate because there's bad code, or they can create a fake web page over the web page and fool the user. A whole host of things can happen. That's the bottom line. That's the reality. So attackers get in, Giovanni, 2 ways: spear phishing emails or from the website. And unfortunately, because you can see the reality, they're being successful.
So I've got an anecdotal story for everyone here today. I received an email from one of the directors, and I went to go open the email because it said it was the directors and one of the board. And when I opened it up, this is at a previous organization, not this one. When I opened it up, it then subsequently deleted all my contacts. It was a Trojan or a worm or something along those lines. But anyway, the message contained a virus. So when I contacted the director, I said, so his system had been compromised. And so this is how it proliferates, right? So it's like tentacles that go out throughout. One gets it, and then there's exponential, like when you drop a pebble into a lake or something, and it was nice and placid. Now it's created ripples throughout, and this is how it affects the industry and how we can all be affected. So my question to you, Zion, I need to, from the OGCA standpoint, how can we protect ourselves?
Absolutely, a terrific question, and that's the heart and soul of our webinar today. How do we protect our members? How do we have them mitigate cyber risk? Now, before I walk through that part, it's really important that we actually show an attack, how it happens in minutes, so that this becomes true reality for our audience members. Because a lot of times we gloss over this stuff. We go, okay, they can be attacked from the website. I still don't quite know how that can happen. Well, let's show you. Let's show you right now.
This sounds interesting. Okay, please do.
Yeah. So I mentioned 3 kinds of vulnerabilities we detected, very, very, very dangerous. So let me just pick one: clickjacking. And now I'm going to show you a simulation of an attack. And this is how it happens. Now, we've changed, a little bit of the attack flow, because I don't want to show how to really do the attack here in a live audience, because we don't want you to become attackers.
It's an instructional video now. Let's not do that. Yes.
Exactly. So we have to be careful in a public forum not to give away, the techniques in that way. But I think you'll get the picture, how simple it is. So we've tweaked it a little bit. We made it a little bit difficult to really replicate, but you'll see it's still very, very easy. And the other part is we're not using a general contractor's website. So I'm going to use another organization that's completely unrelated to our audience, just for safety purposes. So, but you know what? It could be one of you. So let's start and show you. So let's make this organization called Anytown K-12 School. All right. By the way, this is an actual website. So we just changed the name. And there's the URL, and there's a login hidden in there on one of the links in that website, and it's for folks to log in to do different things into the back end. So there's a username and a password. The attacker finds this and identifies this as a target organization, and they confirm that by scanning. So when they scan, now to us on the naked eye, it looks like a nice clean login page. But to the attacker with a scanner, he can see underlying code. So what he sees is that there is in the header statement, which is one of the lines on the web, on that page, there is a pound symbol. Now that was placed by the developer temporarily while the developer was building that web page in the website. The guy should have removed that pound symbol when he went live. He forgot. It's a mistake. Simple as that. The attacker goes, wow, bingo, beautiful. Because there's a pound symbol in the header statement, it allows me now to create a fake web page, a web layer, because of the pound symbol. Without the pound symbol, I wouldn't be able to create a web layer, another web page. So that's a simple example of bad code and could have been misconfiguration. So the hacker goes, lovely. So the attacker now finds that there are two people in this organization, Sam and Bob. Sam reports to Bob, and he found him on LinkedIn. They've got their bios. And he's figured out the emails, which is very simple to do. And so what they do now is they create a spear phishing email, pretending it's coming from Bob, and sends this to Sam. And Sam is an administrator at this website. So the email goes, hi, Sam, this is urgent. Need a count of all active users. Please log in to the admin portal. The superintendent needs this ASAP. I can't seem to connect to the network, so using my personal email, all right? Now, Sam is busy. He sees the email from his boss, Bob. He goes, okay, I got to respond. So he doesn't pay attention, and he clicks on the link, and he sees the login page. But actually, if you look up at the top, it's a typo squatting page because there is a typo in school. So the attacker was able to create this URL by just changing one letter. Sam doesn't notice it. He's too busy multitasking. He sees the login page just like normal page. So he puts his credentials in and he, starts to log in. But while he's doing that, this is a fake web page called a web layer that the attacker was able to create because of the pound symbol. And so now the attacker is able to now receive the credentials as Sam inputs it. And now the attacker immediately actually logs into the actual login page as Sam, and he's in.
And now he has full control then.
Now he has full control. And he got the database. He can now import, export. He can download all the files. He can install ransomware right now also, by the way, which is what they want to do. They're double dipping these days, which is put in ransomware, let it start infecting, and also get the data out. And so that way you are able to double dip. So that's the reality, unfortunately, Giovanni. So what we've done in Canada is to say, okay, we got to put a stop to this. And so let's address the root cause, which is poor defenses. So let's find out what is going to work as a solid defense. And so I had the honor and privilege, as you mentioned earlier, to help create the new National Cybersecurity Standard of Canada. And so I personally spent countless hours, along with a few of my other colleagues, to look at all of the rules, regulations, standards in the world, in the US, in the UK, in the EU, anywhere. And we saw what was out there and what really works and what doesn't work, and what is overkill and what is under prevention. And so we curated the best of the best. And we have created what's called CAN CIRC 104. It's published by the CIS Strategy Council, which is a body that's endorsed by ICED, Ministry of Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, and the Standards Council of Canada, and allowed to create standards. And so they're the body that creates digital standards. So they published the national standard for cybersecurity called Baseline Cybersecurity Controls for Canada. It's primarily for small and medium organizations. So these are organizations that are 500 or less employees, which are majority of the organizations in Canada, over 1 million. Majority of the members of yours are that way also, but it also applies to large organizations. So what the standard does is it lays out essentially 55 controls. Now there's 2 levels. So level 1 is for those very, very small organizations that maybe just have a very basic website. It's like a postcard. There's nothing really going on there. It just tells the visitors, this is what we do. I can't really send you anything. You can't really receive anything. There's no form to fill out, nothing. So very low risk, small micro organization. For this organization, we are saying you can do 22 controls under level 1 because you are inherently low risk. But if you have anything other than that, if you have an informational exchange website or a transactional website, which means that either you accept payments or you allow login to a database, or you allow exchange of information via forms, et cetera, then you are not level 1. Then you are, higher risk inherently. And so you're really level 2, and you got to implement 33 more controls to get to 55 controls. Really, every organization, in my opinion, should really implement 55 controls, and they can. So the standard basically describes the controls in 3 different domains, like organizational controls, baseline controls, and then you can see controls by operating environment, and you can see the subheadings like cybersecurity training. So you got to train your employees, you got to do a risk assessment. We provide a template on how to do a risk assessment as part of the standard. You got to have an incident response plan that's going to be in writing. We provide a template on how to put one together if you don't have one. And then we essentially, put in specific controls, like this is what you should do to prevent, detect, or respond. And so it's plain language, it's curated from best of the best. These really work. And so that is the national standard of Canada. And we're very proud to be able to say that this is the world's first standard in cybersecurity for small and medium organizations in the world. So Canada actually has taken a leadership position, which we're very proud to be part of, and it's here. So we encourage OGCA members to download the standard. We put together a 15-minute guide. You can just scan this QR code and download it. It's also on our website. We'll show that to you in a little bit. And the 15-minute guide is a plain language walkthrough of the standard. So we have now a defense, Giovanni, and we want to encourage everybody to implement the defense.
So I have a question just came to mind and stuff. So now you have this list and you've got all these controls that you put into place. Don't the hackers also have access to this? Like, can't they also see this and go, oh, so they're going to put this, can I counter it by doing this? I understand that 55 different, implementations is rather difficult. And I'm assuming that this process would be a huge deterrent to the hackers because they're looking for low-hanging fruit as opposed to working this hard to actually crack a system.
Excellent point. Excellent point. So one of the controls, for example, is that you scan your website for OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities. And so these are basically 10 vulnerabilities that are commonly exploited. They're published. And so what the control is to say that you as an organization should scan your websites and web applications regularly for these OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities. The one I showed you, clickjacking, that I demonstrated, is one of them. So what we're saying is scan and look for these kinds of vulnerabilities and eliminate them. So we're telling everybody this. The organization should now scan and should look for those vulnerabilities and eliminate them. And therefore, the attacker, when they scan, will find nothing. And the attacker will then go, oh, this is not worth my time. Let me move to another organization that might not be there yet. So even though the attacker may know that this is a control we're suggesting, that's okay. If the control is working, the attacker cannot do anything with it because there's no vulnerabilities on the website for him to exploit. He's going to move on. It's like a burglar, coming to the home at night when you're in bed and going, let me see, are there any doors that are unlocked? Is the backyard door open? Are any windows open? If everything's shut, the guy's going to go away. Let me go to the next house. This is not worth my time. But he finds a window that's open. He's like, well, this is a good one. I'm in and I'm out. So same concept. So that's what we do here is we lay out these controls for everybody to be able to see. But if you use them, then you're going to be successful.
That's awesome. So I I'm happy to announce that, because of our proactive thinking, the OGCA doesn't want any of our members to feel the ill effects of cyber, ransomware and whatnot. So we have partnered with CyberCatch in order to really provide our members with this degree of access, to assist them to kind of like protect their systems. And again, especially the small to medium-sized companies that don't have the wherewithal to or even the knowledge to where to start. So if you could walk us through, Cy, with what it is that you're providing to our members to assist them in this process of protection.
No, absolutely, Giovanni. And again, I thank you for your foresight and your thought leadership and forward thinking to partner together to really help OGCA members, mitigate cyber risk. This is one of the key risks that they have to mitigate. And so we're honored and thrilled to partner together. And, really delighted to share with the audience that CyberCatch has been endorsed by CIO Strategy Council, the publisher of the national standard, for our solution because it's a one-stop shop. It helps implement compliance with the standard quickly, efficiently, and effectively. And so they've endorsed us. We've also got support and endorsement from Ministry of Innovation, Science, and Economic Development. I said they also have seen the solution and said, yeah, this is amazing. This is awesome. It's affordable, effective. This is exactly what's needed by everybody in Canada to get in compliance. So we're happy to support. So we're honored to have the support. And this can be the marquee, leadership that we can provide to the rest of the world. We think that other countries should follow us. So what does the solution do? It does two things. Number one, it helps comply with this national standard. So those 55 controls, we, between a combination of a tool and experts, help the organization quickly implement all the 55 controls. So we have a tool called Cyber Benchmark. It has all the controls in the system, all organized with questions on, do you have this control? Are you scanning your websites regularly for OWASP top 10? Yes or no? And so we go through all that quickly and we benchmark. And so quickly we find the gaps. So out of the 55, maybe you have 20 controls implemented today. Okay, fine, that's okay. Now, the 20 controls, what's the proof behind that? Show me something that proves that you have the control. So we look at a document, we look at a technical control, and then we capture that. And so now we've got evidence to show, yes, I've got the 20 out of the 55. Great. All right, we're cool. But let's work on the remaining 35 controls. So you don't have them today. All right. So that's where our virtual CISOs go to work. So we have a team of cybersecurity experts that will, via Zoom sessions like we're doing today, walk you through on what you need. Oh, you don't have an incident response plan? Well, good. Here's a template. And so what you got to do is just tweak it here, tweak this, and this should be a good plan for you. All right? Sign off on it. Let's capture it. Let's upload it as evidence. And now let's put it into effect. And we can actually do a quick test run on it. Great. Capture that. That's what we're doing. So between the virtual CISO service, complementary, and the tool Cyber Benchmark, we're getting into compliance within a couple of weeks on average, all right? So you got 55 controls. We'll recommend things that you might not have. We'll give you policy template, a procedure template. We're helping you get there fast. Technical controls could be free or could be very cost effective. We know all the technical controls that work that are just too costly, ineffective, a waste of money. Some are free that are very effective. We'll recommend those to you. So you get them in there, you're not in compliance. The other part that we do is we provide Cyber Threat TV, which is like a Netflix movie type training for your employees. So they can take a quick module, you role play an RCMP officer going into these two hacks, and you're looking at evidence, trying to figure out how the hacks happen. It's fun, but it's important awareness training for the employees so they can be the firewall. So those are the three things we do, and now you're in compliance with 55 controls. We've documented it, okay? So that's the first step we do. Then what we do is we don't stop there. Then we turn on automation. So we're going to test those controls regularly to make sure the controls are working, that nothing is broken that the attacker can exploit. And we do that three ways. We have a patent on this, three-dimensional testing. We'll scan your internet-facing assets via our tool called Cyber X-ray. All you do is pick a frequency. Do you want it weekly, biweekly, monthly, quarterly? Pick that frequency, pick a time, that's it. Cyber X-ray goes to work, and you punch in your URLs or IP addresses will help you do that quickly. It takes like 5 minutes. You make those selections, Cyber X-ray runs, and it'll run at the frequency. And it'll generate a report. It'll show your dashboard with all the vulnerabilities, like the clickjacking one we found, and we'll guide you on where it is. And then our team can quickly guide you on how to fix it or work with your developer or your IT people. That's what CyberTech does. Scanning from the outside, finding those vulnerabilities and plugging them before the attackers find them. While we're doing that, we're also going to send some simulated phishing emails to your employees. So we'll quickly pick a template. We have a template in the library for your organization. You punch it in and done. Your employees will get these phishing emails from us. It's not really phishing. And if they are fooled by clicking a link or downloading, we'll alert them and say, hey, you know what? This could have been really bad, all right? This is not real, but this is what you missed. And so really, here's what you should look for. So we'll send it to a landing page, or we'll send it to another e-learning course. But you know what's going on in your organization. You'll know who clicked. Oh my goodness, the 3 people in my IT clicked. Not good. Okay, they're the prime target. So hey, what's going on, guys? Pay attention. So that's what we're doing. Also, we have an agent that you download. It's 33 kilobytes. It takes a few seconds. You download it onto one endpoint. Could be a server, could be another endpoint. That agent now goes to work. It'll go inside your network and start roaming around, and we'll see if there's anything broken, if there's anything that an attacker will be able to exploit. For example, it does 36 different tests. So think of it as automated pen testing, but it's non-invasive in the sense that it won't actually penetrate. So, for example, one of the 36 tests that we do is actually mapped from MITRE ATT&CK framework. So MITRE ATT&CK framework is this body that's put together by the US government of what's called tactics, techniques, and procedures, TTPs. These are what the attackers use. And so it lays out what the attackers use for tactics, techniques, and procedures. And what we've done is we've actually taken those attacks and we have automated it in the agent. So the agent actually behaves like an attacker, but doesn't obviously penetrate. So for example, one of the tests is brute force. And what brute force is using a password cracker to crack a password in seconds. And so what the agent would do is it'll look around and say, okay, is there any database in this network? Oh yeah, there's a database on this server. Great. Let's see if we can use password cracker to log in. And if it uses it and is successful, it won't log in, but it alert you and say, guess what? We found this database. Here's where it is. And we cracked the password. We didn't go in, but you know what? You better fix it. Because if an attacker got in, that's exactly what they would do. And they would just go in, take the data and go out. So alert, you've got a missing or a broken control here. And so now you're going to be alerted and you're going to go and fix the password from password 123 to your.
That's not a good password? Oh, okay. Never mind. I should change all of mine then, sorry.
And you're going to find out, like, what happened here? How did this happen? And then our team's there to guide you. So that's what's going on. It's 3-dimensional testing from the outside, from the inside, and your employees. So we're constantly finding things that might be broken, alerting you and fixing it. So if we do those 2 things, implement the controls and constantly test, you're in great shape. You are mitigating cyber risk because you're at a level where you're catching things before the attackers find them.
So it's interesting because the vast majority of our members, obviously, we're big on health and safety. So we're all about awareness. We're all about education. We're all about training because we want to make sure that, all of our employees are aware of potential hazards on the site. Again, this is a different universe for us, right? Because there are potential hazards digitally. And, if we're not looking at that realm, we we open ourselves up or are prone to attacks, and they have some serious consequences. I know, again, anecdotally, where I've heard of members who get hacked, and then the ransomware kicks in, and they can't get access to it. I think all of us at some point in time have heard some sort of anecdotal information about they've heard of somebody who got hacked, and like all their stuff is encrypted. And then, they sell it back to you in order to be unencrypted. And a lot of it has to do with, you have to like Bitcoins or whatever, things that can't be traced type thing. Right. And so who needs the hassle in all of this? And I think that an ounce of prevention, just like in health and safety, is worth a pound of cure. So yeah. I this is one of the reasons why, we're trying to be proactive in all of this, because this is such a huge problem. It proliferates throughout. It's not just construction, it's all industries, right? And so small to medium size. One thing, I think our members are really good at, especially when they come out and they price a job and they do things, is mitigation of risk. right? They break it down to component pieces, and contractors are used to risk. Just out of curiosity, but what are the consequences if we don't take this risk into effect, and if we allow this stuff? If we're not as diligent as you suggest we should be, what happens? What are the consequences, Si?
No, that's a very powerful question, a thoughtful question. Thank you, Giovanni. And so, as I answer that, let me just, tee it up a little bit to explain, our partnership towards that goal. So, we're honored and delighted to partner together. And, I'll walk you to a special website that we've created for OGCA members. As a member, you get a special benefit of 20% discount on our solution. It's already affordable, but you're going to be able to save, thousands of dollars. So that's what we're doing together, is we're bringing this proactive risk mitigation solution to you. Here's the link to it. After the webinar, please go to cybercash.com/OGCA. You'll see the website. We've got the standard there you can download. We've got the 15-minute guide. We've got a demo that you can see 6 minutes of our solution. There's a whole host of other information. So we encourage you to go there. But really, what it's about, as Giovanni, as you say, it's about risk mitigation. So what is cyber risk? That's a risk that everybody faces today because everybody's digital, but certainly OGCA members. Well, cyber risk is the risk of adverse impact to earnings, capital, or reputation. Okay, that's the risk that you face. The adverse impact to earnings, capital, or reputation. So if an attacker exploits one of these vulnerabilities and gets in and gets data out and also installs ransomware, which is what they're doing there today, they're double dipping. So now what happens is your website is completely encrypted, your database is encrypted, all your systems are encrypted, nobody can access anything, your job is starting to get impacted now, and they're demanding a ransom payment of $2 million in Bitcoin. So now you're stuck. You can't do your job. You can't process stuff. You can't get things done. You're locked out. So what do you do now? Do you pay that 2 million Bitcoin and get the decryption key so you can get back up? Or do you refuse to pay and try to figure out what the hell happened? And can you, bring up backups maybe? How long will it take to bring backups and get back up? Are they even, available? Or did they get infected also? How nasty was that, ransomware? So you're in a jam right now because of that, right? So you're having right now an operational impact. So that's starting to build. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to get through this. And, the cost of that is going to impact your earnings because you're going to have to bring in some experts. You're going to have to, spend time and money to try to unlock. You may end up paying the ransom. If you don't, you're going to have hard and, soft costs involved to try to get back up, to clean up, a whole host of things you got to do, right? You got to deal with your customers. You got to deal with your, suppliers yourself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's going to be an impact financially. And in fact, according to IBM, on average, it's over $5 million on a data breach is the financial cost, the direct financial cost. This does not
on average?
On average.
Wow.
And this does not include the ransomware, costs. This is just the cost of trying to, survive from a data breach in terms of potential lawsuits, in terms of customer communications, paying for credit monitoring, for people that are impacted, et cetera, over $5 million. So you got going to have an impact financially. So that's one of the consequences. The other consequence I mentioned was to capital. What I mean by that is that in the long run, that cost can be significant even more because now do you have insurance? The insurance may not pay because they may say, well, you didn't have this control in place. So we refuse to help you pay. So now you get into a lawsuit with them. So there's some cost there. You might get sued by your customers, by your suppliers, by your employees maybe, because guess what? Their data was stolen, because of lack of control. So, maybe there's a lawyer that comes in and says, hey, let's do a class action. This, contractor was negligent. And, a bunch of people have got identity theft happen to them. So there are a whole host of other ramifications that can impact your capital, not just your earnings. And of course, reputation. Now people know that you've been hacked. It's all over the press. You're getting some negative publicity. People are demanding what the hell's going on. It's a ripple effect, like you mentioned earlier, Giovanni. You used the word ripple. That's exactly it. Okay, it's a ripple effect that just goes around the organization, affects employees, suppliers, customers, prospective customers, whole host of impact. So that's the cyber risk, and unfortunately, that's what's happening today at these organizations who haven't put a proper defense in place, and they're getting caught by surprise, and they're having to now deal with the consequences. So cyber risk is real, it's here, and it's significant because it can be exploited from thousands of miles away. And these attackers are on the attack. They're scanning from the outside, they're trying to find organizations that have vulnerabilities, targeting them, profiling them, and going for it. So that's why we're doing this webinar today. That's why we have this partnership.
So, quick question for you. Hypothetically speaking, my company's been attacked. How long does it take to fix or undo that attack? I'm just curious because, again, I think on top of all of the things that you're saying about obviously loss of earnings, loss of capital, and loss of reputation, you can't work, you can't advance anything. So obviously that affects earnings and capital. But I mean, you have no production, you have no one doing anything, and within your own organization, one person can't communicate to another other than to walk across the hallway and say, what's going on? How come I can't get my emails out? Why is there nobody contacting us? What's the average timeline that once attacked you can actually get the system back online and fixing, just on a simple attack?
Yeah, so it depends on the size of the organization, the extent of the attack. So, for example, with ransomware, question is, did it infect all of the databases, or is it only in one of the databases? Generally it'll try to infect everything. So if all the databases are impacted, that's pretty significant. Also, it's been coded these days to actually look for backup files. So if you didn't have the backup files offline and offsite, they were somewhere in your network, maybe on a different server. Guess what? That ransomware could actually spread and go and find and hunt for those backup files and encrypt them. So now, if you've got your databases encrypted and your backup files encrypted, then you are really at a serious trouble, because you're not able to get back up because there's no backups. So normally if you'd backed it up last night or maybe 2 nights ago, then at least you can go find the backup, and maybe in a few days you can pull it up and get it back up, and make sure everything's clean. And then you can, sort of quarantine the server that's got the ransomware, completely shut that down, get everybody re-access to a different server that's clean. So you're going to need some technical help, no doubt about it. But at least in a few days, if you have got proper backup and the proper process in place, you can get back up again, possibly. So it depends on the extent of the ransomware and your controls in place. So if you have poor controls in place, then it could be weeks and several weeks, or even a month. We've seen instances where organizations have been down for a month, and it's almost made them bankrupt. Some organizations have actually gone bankrupt or shut down. They just couldn't survive, beyond 2 weeks. On average, we did a survey of thousands of companies and said, how long could you survive a ransomware attack? 75% said we could only survive a week, 7 days. Because past 7 days, the impact is so severe that it's going to really just affect our bottom line and our cash flow and everything else. We're just not going to be able to do anything more. So this is very serious. And the other, to build on your comment, Giovanni, which is so right, about the impact, in terms of just operations. If you think about construction, for example, it's kind of similar to other businesses, like oil refineries and supply chain, if you will, right? So if you think about the Colonial Pipeline attack, everybody can remember in the US, it was a national disaster, right? Because the pipeline got shut down and gasoline couldn't be supplied. And all of a sudden, gas prices spiked up. It was a ripple effect. It started to affect, other economies, not just the US. It was a big deal. Now, guess what happened? The attackers didn't go into the pipeline itself, the physical pipeline. The attackers actually just attacked the accounting system Okay, they just attacked
Wow.
the IT. So again, they found from the website vulnerabilities. They got in from the website into the online accounting system and put in ransomware there. Because that accounting system was so integral to the daily operations of being able to see how much gasoline is being supplied, where, who, what is the cost, what is the pricing, what is the revenues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was a powerful system. It was a key to that colonial pipeline business. And so they didn't even have to go into the pipeline. It was just that they shut down that couldn't enable the supply of the gasoline to occur normally. And so that's why the pipeline got shut down until the accounting system was able to be back up so that they could manage the gasoline. Otherwise, they just couldn't. It'd be crazy. They could suffer billions of dollars in losses. So that's an example that could happen in the construction business also, right? So, something like an accounting system could cause the job to be shut down for 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. And what would the impact be? Very, very severe.
So now you're starting, I'm questioning every app I have on my phone. I'm questioning everything because it's how do we know if this is safe or not? And now does the system that you've developed with the government of Canada, does it allow for that level of detail? Does it allow us to scan apps on our phones? Does it, and like obviously there's apps to be downloaded and purchased for free and whatnot. How do I know that it is safe and what isn't? Can we put policies and procedures in place that, employees be careful of this? Because do you have a newsletter? Do you have notices? It's all about information now. So now it's how do we stop from getting into the situation where we're shut down for a month and we're held hostage, basically. All of this is incredibly important. So again, I've got all these questions, all these thoughts. In short order, we're going to open up the floor to questions from the audience as well. But is it as simple as an ounce of prevention is what I'm asking, Sai, in all of this?
Yes, that's really the key, Giovanni, is prevention. That's the way you're going to get the maximum ROI, return on your investment, right? So there are some controls out of the 55 that are detective, like the scanning of the websites, for example. So that's detective. You detect a bad code or an error. The error is already there, but at least you're detecting it timely and you're fixing it. So that's detective control. And then there's some response controls. So you should have backups. The backup should be offsite, offline. You should test that backup recovery, right? So that's kind of like testing in a response situation. You should have an incident response plan. But most of the controls are really preventive because really what you want to do is you want to prevent. You just want to be in a situation where you have missing controls that can be exploited. So that's why we've laid out the controls. And that's where it's not just, self-help. Hey, here's a system, good luck. No, what we have done is we've got this team of virtual CISOs that are there as part of the process so that we can quickly guide the members through the controls, explain, educate, provide those tips, provide those templates. And so that's where the real value comes in. So we will, one of the things we do, first thing is as we go through the benchmarking I mentioned, do gap analysis, we also look at your attack surface. Now, what is an attack surface? And in fact, one of the things that our team does is we create an attack surface map. So it's really good from an executive point of view, because as an executive, as a leader, you probably have never seen an attack surface map of your organization. What an attack surface map is a visual diagram of all your IT assets and what kind of controls that you may have today or not have today. And how can those IT assets be accessed? So it's a visual diagram of your topology. So our experts create that. And so that's a really good, visual from an executive point of view to go, wow, this is my business from an IT point of view. And this is what the attackers are really seeing. So, whoa, okay, now I got to manage this risk. So we create an attack surface map, that's part of the value that starts to educate the organization. And then we, quickly walk through the controls and implement the controls. And now you've got the proper defense in place. We provide a summary to the executive team so the executive team understands, what we've done and now where you were and where you are now today. And what you need to be doing to continue to mitigate the risk. So that's part of the whole value. And so we would, walk through all of the different applications, systems, capture all that, and guide you on how to mitigate risk.
So interesting. I was just going to ask you a question on the insurance side of things, and I got two questions from our audience on insurance. So I'm going to ask them in successive order, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. First off, how important do you feel it is to contact your insurance company before starting remediation after a breach?
Yes. So unfortunately, if you're in that situation where you have a breach, you've got to do two things simultaneously. You've got to contact your insurance company immediately, and you've also obviously got to take action. Action means on your own, you've got to start to mitigate the risk. So you can't let time go by. Time is most precious at that moment, even more so. So question, how bad is it? Is it ransomware? Is it every system? Is it, isolated so far so we can shut that down? Go manual for a day until we can be back up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you got to take a look and see if you can handle it. If not, call experts. You can call us. We can help you. We have a whole team. But you've got to also contact your insurance company and tell them immediately where we are. Because what they don't want is they don't want you to keep things from them. Then they'll use that against you. So, the whole point of insurance is to help you mitigate your loss. That's what it's for, right? So you're in that situation and you've implemented other controls, it still happened. That's where ideally you want to be, is you've got compliance in place, you've got controls in place, it still happened. Well, then you contact insurance, the insurance company will then be compelled to provide coverage. And so part of the coverage might be assistance, with forensics, it might be other kinds of assistance, and obviously financial assistance that you've paid for. So you got to do that simultaneously. You cannot wait. That's really important.
So back on the insurance topic, insurance companies have been pushing crypto lock and cybersecurity plans, but the premiums are very high and increasing 20 to 30% a year. Do you recommend an insurance solution in addition to proofing your IT? In your experience, do you find that insurance companies assist in getting you back online quickly?
So one of the keys, I'm glad you asked that question. That's really a powerful question. One of the keys to success here is to comply with the national standard and implement these 55 controls, and then to tell your insurance company that. So if you have cyber insurance today, and they've jacked up your premium, one of the ways to reduce that is to comply with the national standard. Because now you can go to the insurance company and say, look, we use CyberCatch. It's endorsed by the government of Canada. We've implemented the national standard of Canada. We've got these 55 controls in place. We have documentation and proof. So we are now at a lower cyber risk profile than we were when we got the insurance from you a year ago, 2 years ago. Okay? So I expect a reduction in my premium. And if you make that case, then you will see the insurance company go, whoa, okay, you're now got these controls in place. Let me take that information back to the insurance company itself. This is your broker, is who you'd probably talk to. And now you've got a good case for them to go back and go, okay, this is not a typical company that hasn't done anything. And so now we can just jack up their premiums because they're at a higher risk profile now, just because of the nature of what's going on. And they haven't done anything, as opposed to now, whoa, they're lowering their risk. They're being proactive. They're in compliance.
But clearly that has to be evidence-based. They're not just going to take my word for it. We have to demonstrate that we've done something.
Exactly. And
right.
That's part of the value of our solution, because now you can demonstrate the attack surface map, you can demonstrate the incident response plan, you can demonstrate the cyber risk assessment that we've done, you can demonstrate the system security plan that we'll generate as part of the process, right? So there's the evidence, there's the proof. It's kind of like providing your financial statements, do you have liquidity? Let me see. I can just take your word for it. So you do that, that's sort of the basis for a re-underwriting of your risk. Because remember, your risk was underwritten a year ago, 2 years ago, based on nothing really, just some basic questions. Do you have antivirus? How large are you? How many employees do you have? It's basically a joke the way they used to underwrite. So insurance companies are becoming now, more risk averse because they're getting these loss claims because they haven't been proactive. But the way to help them and help everybody is through compliance, is through CAN-CIC 104. So that is another value proposition that is here. Not only savings by just doing this and getting safer, but actually you can get cyber insurance now, number one. And number two, you can actually lower your cyber insurance with the compliance, and we'll help you with that. So that's a really, really another key value add and a benefit of compliance.
Yeah, we saw cyber insurance jump exponentially. So clearly, anything that you can demonstrate evidence-based to mitigate, or to demonstrate that you've taken all the necessary steps to protect your company from these attacks, because it's insane and getting worse. Next question. So if some of the participants are just starting to understand the complexity of this, their question to you is: would your first step be more offensive or defensive?
Well, I think maybe perhaps the question is asking, should we be thinking proactively here? So when I say defense, and we talk about the standard, frankly, it's part offense and part defense, right? In fact, what's the old analogy? The best offense is a great defense. So think of it that way. What we put together here is a defense, but it's the best offense. Why? Well, because it's making you proactive. So it's keeping you ahead of the curve. It's keeping you ahead of the cyber attackers. And so now you can grow your business because the attackers will go away. They're not going to find you as a vulnerable target by scanning, for example, right? They're going to be able to lure your employees into being fooled. So they're going to move on. So because they move on from you, you don't get attacked. That means you can continue to grow your sales and your business and be safe digitally. So that's the offense that this defense provides, because you're solid. If you have a weak defense, then it's going to impact your offense because you're not going to be able to grow. You might even shut down. You might have a significant adverse financial impact, reputational impact. So I think that's how I would answer that is, best offense is a great defense. And what we're providing to you is a great defense, but it's really proactive. It's prevention.
I agree. Like anything that you can do in advance of, it's like when you get into a car, why do you put your seatbelt on? Because you're not anticipating a crash, but in the event that one may happen, you're already protected, right? So these are kind of like again, and we want to make sure that our members are protected. Another good question: does CyberCatch offer a ratio between hardware and software mitigation, or should it only be looked at as general system integration?
So when we talk about the 55 controls, what we're talking about are policies, procedures, or technical controls to prevent, detect, respond. And they could be, for example, a policy and a procedure and a technical control that says that we will use multi-factor authentication for our privileged users. So privileged users are people like in IT and others who have keys to the kingdom. Like if I was able to steal this person's username and password, then I can easily get in, get the data, install ransomware, do all kinds of things, right? Because this person's credentials are so strong. They're privileged. They can make changes to the database. They can make changes to user profiles, all kinds of things. So that could be, for example, a policy or a procedure. Of course, you could use multi-factor on all users, but from a cost point of view, if you wanted to focus on privilege, that's the control that minimally you should have. So that's an example of a control that either you have today or you don't have, that we will then help you implement. So we'll make sure there's a policy that says that you have that, make sure there's a procedure that this happens. And then there's a technical control where there's actually multi-factor authentication that you have in place on these privileged users, and we'll make sure you have it. So we'll either recommend something that's free. Microsoft, Google have some free multi-factor authentication apps that you can use. There are some that you pay a little bit more cost, private companies. We'll take a look at your risk profile, recommend, you can make the choice. But that's an example of how we help you implement that control. And what does that control do? That control now prevents the attacker from stealing the credentials off this very valuable person. And how does it do that? Well, now it's just not username and password. Now it's going to be another way to authenticate that person. So if I've stolen your username and password, how do you know it's me? You don't. You get in. But if you are now getting essentially a requirement that you have to put in a one-time passcode to authenticate that it's really you, then that's a blocker, right? It makes it much more difficult for the attacker to be able to just use those two things, username and password, and pretend to be you and get in. They're not able to, because it has to be you using your mobile phone to be able to put in this one-time passcode that expires in a few seconds. So if it's not you, then I'm not going to be able to use your credentials. So that's an example of a control. So what we do is we look again at your business, we look at your hardware, we look at your software, we look at your systems, and we see what controls you have today, what you're missing, and we recommend and implement a variety of controls that comply with the standard.
So it's that simple. Like a two-step authentication can already reduce the likelihood of an attack because of that, which is that's heartening to hear. And again, this is something that these are easy fixes from what I'm hearing, which is again, when you get into digital, a lot of times it's confusing because, you know, that's not where we're in. We're in construction and we deal with the tangible. This is a lot of times, as I said, intangible. So it can be scary. I have yet another insurance question. I'm not sure if this is something that you can answer, perhaps if you've seen incidents of this, but are cyber insurance companies getting out of paying incidents due to ransomware, due to hackers?
Cyber insurers are today getting claims left and right. And so what they're doing is they're trying to avoid having to pay because it's causing them severe financial losses. So they're going to essentially, you know, try to see if they can get out of it because you made maybe a statement on the application and that's not true. Or they'll try to make a case that you should have had controls in place and you didn't, you're negligent. And therefore, you know, the claim is not going to be, approved. And so, you know, you didn't have basic controls in place, ransomware got in. And so, no, you know, it's not going to support ransom payment. Some of the policies have exclusions also. So it depends on what kind of policy you got, who your carrier was. And so that's part of what we would do is just take a look and see where you are from an insurance point of view and help you get to a better position, you know, where you are compliant and you're getting cyber insurance at a good rate, at a reasonable rate.
Interesting. So you do provide, you know, what insurance clauses we should keep in there to ensure that we're protected and that, you know, we're not prone to, you know, adverse effects or whatever the case is. That's interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, Giovanni, one of the controls we put in is to get cyber insurance. That's one of the controls. It's kind of a last resort because, again, you know, you don't want to rely on insurance. You really want to rely on your defense because insurance, if you're trying to claim, means you have a defense, you're been attacked. It's too late, you know. So, but we do have as the control. And so one of the things we do is we see if you have an insurance policy in place, does it cover cyber? If not, then, you know, we'll recommend a partner of ours and we'll help you. But again, remember, complying with the standard will get you the proper risk mitigation and cyber insurance at a really affordable rate.
Excellent. So we are going to circulate this, the recording via YouTube. Cy, if it's okay with you, we'd like to be able to provide the deck to all the audience participants and to all of our members as well. I think it's vital information. Additionally, if anyone has any questions about CyberCatch or costing or whatnot, because it depends on the company, it depends on the complexity, it depends on all that stuff. I highly recommend that you reach out through our website, the one that we have jointly here, in order to obtain that information and decide. Thank you very much for this amazing presentation. It's been utterly enlightening. I'll be honest with you. We have also placed the Affinity program in the chat for everyone who wants to just at a glance or quickly click to download it. Anything to help our members out, especially when it comes down to this vital component, which is something that you mentioned, we deal with every single day. We are now clearly into the digital age. This is not something that we can avoid. And just like, you know, my analogy about when you get into a car, you put on a seatbelt, you make sure that your car has airbags and whatnot. This is just a way of preventing a situation that may occur by avoiding it completely with checks and balances in place to make sure that you are not that low-hanging fruit for an attacker. You are not seen as a victim and to move the company forward. So again, Cy, thank you very much for this. Any last words to our members, Cy?
No, please be proactive. That's what I would say, Giovanni. It's about your reputation. It's about your business. You are digital, so please be proactive. It's got so many benefits we've covered. Thank you for having me. Honored to be with you, and we look forward to our partnership to help your members, you know, keep moving forward, be successful, and mitigate cyber risk.
Thank you to audience members. Thank you for participating. Thank you for the amazing questions. And in short order, we will have this posted to YouTube. And if anyone has any further questions for Cy, we have an email link that you can send questions at. Thank you one and all. Have yourselves an excellent day. Ciao.